Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Hunter.
I'm alive!
I was really hoping you were going to do the I'm Alive song from Xanadu. Have you seen that movie with Olivia Newton-John? And
been a minute.
and the guy from Megaforce? I don't know his actual name. I just know him as the guy from the Warriors and Megaforce. But there is an ELO song on that soundtrack called I'm Alive. It's a great soundtrack.
Wow. I'm alive, I'm here, and I'm not wearing any pants. So.
Yay! Also joining us is your co-host, Spaz.
Hello.
We're doing this a little different than usual because usually when we have an overseas guest, we do a show at 6 a.m. Pacific time. So it's like the middle of the afternoon overseas. But our guest this week is in Poland, and he requested we do something a little later. So it's noon Pacific time. So that makes it about 9 p.m. over there in Poland right now, roughly.
Yep.
Joining us all the way from Poland is Paul, I hope I say this right, Dawelski?
Yeah, great.
Oh, great. The developer of Orbital Racer, which is kind of one of my current obsessions right now. So I am giddy to talk to you, Paul, about this amazing game. Now, folks, if you don't know what Orbital Racer is, let me paint a picture for you. Basically, let's say you took the ring course from X-Wing, TIE Fighter, Independence War, what have you, and fleshed it out to make a whole racing game out of it with single races and championships and 2 insanely different flight modes. That's in a nutshell. Would that be a good descriptor for it, do you think, Paul?
Yeah, it's great. Actually, it's interesting because when I was usually playing space sims, this tutorial section when you have to fly around the rings, for me it's usually the most boring part of the space sim. But I thought it would be interesting to make something interesting of this boring section.
Right, because it's interesting. Like, not many space games have broached racing. I think Freelancer had a racing level or two. And I know the Evercron games have racing missions. But I think that's it. So it's kind of interesting that I don't really think this has been done before. Has it? I mean, do you know of any other examples? Is anyone?
Some guy on Steam actually posted a game that was about similar, but I don't remember the name at this moment.
Wow. I've never heard of it. So
yeah, it was some old game.
Huh. I'll have to see if I can find that because I do not remember a space-focused racing game. But your game it's almost 2 games in one, really, because folks, if you don't know, there are basically 2 ways you can play this game. Well, 4 really, but there are 2 flight models. There's the arcade flight model, which is much easier to fly. The ship does a lot of the work for you. The physics are a lot more forgiving, and there are power-ups as well, just like an arcade game. But there's also the simulator mode, which has its own. It's so much more detailed. It has the HUD is different. It has its own much more detailed flight school than the arcade mode does. The arcade kind of has just a much more bare bones training mode. This has like multiple flight school missions. So it's almost 2 games in one. And I on the stream for what I recorded last night on the stream was my first tackle of the simulator mode, which is just crazy.
What's interesting is that for about 80% of the development time, there was only the simulation mode.
Oh, really? So what spurned the arcade mode then?
Complaints from testers that they didn't understand what's going on all the time.
Yeah, because...
So they were...
Sorry.
Yeah, they were playing it for about, 8 months. They were testing it and they couldn't get a hang of it. So I thought that it would be better to implement something more casual, something more easy to understand.
Yeah, the way I've been playing it is like I've been playing arcade mode, trying to get better at that, and I have been getting a bit better. So I figured once I get good at the arcade mode, I'll quote unquote graduate up to up to simulator mode, because simulator mode is a whole different kettle of fish. I mean,
Yeah, but I made the transition. I tried to make the transition smooth. So if you can competently fly championships in arcade, that's a bit similar to flying in simulation mode with the slower with the amateur class.
now a bunch of people I know are upset that your game is, I'm just gonna say, the single player only. I know a lot of people are like, "Why it should be multiplayer?" But what I tell them, and I want to ask you about this, is that the AI is just ruthless. I've only played with three modes of the AI, but even at its, I'm not gonna say dumbest, but let's say least aggressive, it can still put up a pretty good challenge. But once you amp it up a couple levels, it'll bump you. It'll throw everything it has at you to throw you off. So how much
Yeah.
how much work went into making this AI so competitive?
Well, actually, I redone it from scratch. I think 3 or 4 times
Oh
because
my
I wasn't
god!
satisfied with it.
Oh my god! Why? Like
So
why?
I
Like
was experimenting with different ideas for it, and later on, when I discovered some new calculation, I got better at coding. Then I made this final version, and also I was comparing the AI to my own flying. So as I got better and was beating the AI constantly, then I always felt the need to improve it. So that's why it was constantly changing. But yeah, it was a lot of work, and it was challenging, but a lot of fun actually to program this.
does the AI would you say the AI surprises you now? Like even though you've got so many hours into your own game and you've built it from scratch 3 or 4 times, does it surprise you at all even today?
Yeah, sometimes on the highest difficulty, uh, it can pull off things that I couldn't even imagine doing.
But things that still work within the rules of the game. It's not cheating or anything.
Yeah, yeah. The AI is using exactly the same physics as you are. So you can actually, there was for a long time I used it for testing. There was a code where you put it and you give the control of your ship to the AI and it's flying just like you would.
Can you do that? Can you still do that?
I think there is a cheat code for that. So
I would like to see that. I'm very curious to see that. I'm insanely curious to see that. Are there cheats in the game? I wouldn't use them, but I'm just curious. Are there like other cheats in the game?
well, not many actually. There are a few cheats for career modes to give you some money, or actually to start the new career as much money as you want, or I first made a few cheats to be able to set the amount of laps and rounds for each race in career. But later on, I implemented in the game, so it's not a cheat anymore. But there's that, and there's also the mentioned cheat of giving the control to the AI.
I would like to try that if you could tell me that cheat code later, if you don't want to release it publicly, because I would love to just watch. That brings me to another question. This game is, I think, dying for a replay mode or some kind of spectator mode. Is does it have that and I missed it, or might that be implemented?
Now, I currently it doesn't have because it's not recording anything at the moment. But
Oh.
yeah, I would love to do that actually. It was on my list of things to do, but because so many new things I had to add, like near the end, we've decided to me with the publisher, we decided to add a tutorial for the action mode, because at first it was just a few lines of text explaining everything.
Oh no. That's not enough. That's not enough.
Yeah, you can actually what you can see when you start a new race, that window that explains everything. At first, that was everything that explained the action mode.
Oh no.
The simulation mode has its own tutorial with 4 missions that actually walk you through the everything from flying the ship to explaining the rules of the race. But with action mode, it was very simple at first, but the publisher insisted on making another interactive tutorial, so I did it. And that's why I didn't have the time to implement any replay features.
Are any new features coming? Like now that you're published and out of the way, are you mostly working on bug fixes? Are you working on new stuff? What has been taking up your days with this?
Well, currently I'm not developing new stuff for the game. I'm working fixes. I'm working on a few things in my private life. I have a few things to do, and I'm also starting to work on the new game I'm making, but I cannot tell anything about it so far right now. So right now I cannot promise any new things for the game.
Because
unless I have time for unless I have some time in my spare time, then I can play it, because it's fun working on this game. So then I can do something new, but other than that, it might take some time.
That's fair. I mean, I would pay for DLC with new tracks, or maybe like a random track generator. I don't know how feasible that is, but like I haven't seen all the tracks and I love them, but I want more. I want more for this game. You know what I mean? This was such a super pleasant surprise, I have to admit. So I would love to see more. One thing I'm worried about, and I'm not sure if you're aware, is the game is kind of hard to find on Steam. Do you know?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that.
Do you know what's going on with that? Like, if you do a search on Steam for Orbital Racer, it does not come up.
Yeah, I know. I actually contacted the publisher about this, and they said that they're shuffling some accounts and doing some maintenance, basically. And it should be in about, I don't know, a week or so, it should be back online.
Oh, good. Because, I mean, you can find it. Yeah, you can find it if you, I think what Spaz was saying is you do a search for Google, you can find it like directly through that. But yeah, on the site itself, it doesn't come up, which is frustrating because I'm trying to point more people to it.
Yeah, it's actually worrying me a bit, but it's actually with all the games from this publisher, they are currently not visible in Steam search.
Oh, so
but it should change pretty soon.
Oh, so it's all the games from this particular publisher?
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't know that could happen. That's freaking crazy. So like their whole catalog is basically almost unfindable right now.
Yeah, you can find it in Google, but not on Steam.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that must be frustrating because you just released, like,
yeah,
about 3 weeks ago, maybe about a month.
Yeah,
right?
More or less.
So
yeah, actually, it's in a few days. It will be a month.
And how? I mean, the reviews have been pretty good, but how have you found the reception so far?
Well, basically, those who have played it actually are very, very positive about the game. But let's be honest, and not a lot of people have played it. So
yeah, that's what hopefully this will help with, because trying to get the word out there. Yeah, because I would, like I was saying, I would love to see this game be successful enough to warrant more tracks, more features. Because I mean, the two things I would love for this game are a replay mode and head tracking. And I'm sure they're not the easiest things to implement. But I would love to see this be successful to justify that kind of development time. to make those things happen. So let's talk about the features of the game to get people interested. So right now you have about 30 tracks, right? 27, 28?
24 exactly.
Oh, 24. So two dozen.
It's 8 locations and 3 tracks for each location.
Okay. And there are 2 ways to play the game. Basically, you have a full-on career, which has... How many variants of the career? There's the amateur, and there's amateur, and what else?
The career is actually separate for simulation and action, but the difference is basically just the same with just the flight model. Just so in action you get power-ups, and in career you get upgrades for your ship.
Right,
so that's basically the main difference.
Right, but you can also graduate to different levels of the career. Like there's the amateur level.
Yeah, because went into the career, but after a year, if you're good enough, you get invitations to join the next competition. So you start with the amateur, then you get to professional, which is slightly faster but more difficult ships. And then after when I think if you finish third or better, then they are even more fast ships and more difficult.
Oh geez.
Yeah, but you can try all of them in single race actually.
Yeah, which is nice. You can really set up any kind of race with any kind of track in the single race, which is really nice. It can give you like a taste of, oh, I'm not ready for this. I need to.
Yeah, actually, I don't like the idea of locking content in the game, especially in a racing title. So that's why I decided that in single race you can have everything, and if you don't want to bother with career, because I know some people just want to jump in, fly around a bit, and log off. And they're not worried about the career and all the other stuff, then they can just choose a race, choose a track, choose a orbiter, and just go.
Yeah, I really like that you have both options. I must say I'm really enjoying the career though, because it's really nice seeing my name rise up in the leaderboards. You know, as I slightly do better, as I get more experience flying these things. And I think there are, 9 orbiters in the game? 9 ships?
Yeah, there are, but 3 of them are actually quite similar. So there are 3 sort of companies, 3 manufacturers, as I can say. And both of those have a different ship for each class.
And I gotta say, I love how much detail you've put into the cockpits of all these ships. It's super. I'm usually not a fan of cockpits. I usually like a no cockpit forward view, you know, like say in Free Space 2 or something. But for some reason here they add enough to this. They add something to the situational awareness that makes it easier to race. I think. I think I'd have a harder time if there was no cockpit as a frame of reference.
Yeah, I think it's to do with the camera, because I made the camera respond to your movement, so just like your head would do in the real thing. So that can help. You can see if you move up, the head goes down a bit, left and right. I actually think that helps a little bit with
No, you're absolutely right.
What's going on?
No, you're absolutely right. I didn't even realize it's doing that. That's great. Yeah, because I tried to fly in the third-person mode, and while I'm glad you have that as an option for people who want it, it's not for me. I need to be in the ship, But I'm sure some people do better with the third-person mode.
Yeah. Some people like third person, but I myself too. I think it's easier to aim when in the first person.
It totally is. Even though you have the same instrumentation and everything, it feels a lot more. It feels a lot less stress to aim for the next checkpoint in first person for some reason. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed in racing games in general, I can't do the third person camera anyway. I focus too much on the car and not enough on the road in front of me. So
Yeah, it depends on the game actually, but mostly, yeah, I do it either in cockpit or on the hood cam in
yeah,
case of racing game.
yeah, exactly. No, no, not right now. My cat wants to get on my lap, and I'm busy. No, not right now. So you've been working on this for how long? Like before you released it, how long were you working on it?
Well, I've been working on it for about actually from beginning it was about 2 years before I actually contacted the publisher, and but after hours, so after work, about 2 or 3 hours a day, something like that, and then about 1.5 year of full time.
And
So it's about
yeah,
3 or 4 years, but yeah, it's not.
that's now I have to say you did something different than a lot of people are doing these days. You did not have an early access period. You went straight to 1.0. Was that a conscious choice? And if so, why did you skip early? Because early access is a double-edged sword. It can be great, but it can also have problems. But what led to you skipping it entirely?
Well, I think early access is a great thing for multiplayer titles. When you have
Huh.
single player, basically when you do an early access, I notice it myself that people get burned out before the release. So you do the release and nobody's interested anymore because they've already played it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, like I love having access to early access games, but yeah, I try to avoid them. Like I might play them a little bit, especially if they're single player, like you said, and then I'll just shelve them until they're at 1.0 because I don't want to burn out on them before they're done.
Yeah, I'm fine actually with early access in multiplayer titles because you can still play with other people, but in single player it's a bit different.
Right.
There are a few games like I don't know, Darkest Dungeon was one.
And
At least I wasn't even playing it, so I didn't even bother about it.
it's interesting because the gentleman who created Offworld Trading Company was Soren Johnson. He said that because they did early access, they got all the marketing and the press for their early access release, and almost none at all for their final like 1.0 release.
Yeah,
that's got to be
because when you look at the press, they act about early access just like they treat early access releases just like the regular ones.
yeah.
So if a new game gets out on early access, it gets all the press or the people are talking about it, but then it's when they actually release it, nobody's actually bothered except the fans for the game maybe.
Yeah, that's really a marketing, like, again, double-edged sword. So
You can even look at the Elite Dangerous because when it released 1.0 release, it didn't get as much publicity as the early access as when they entered early access.
I hate to say this, but I'm really glad Jim isn't here because any mention of Elite Dangerous just
So let me tell you about why I hate Elite Dangerous so much.
Yeah, we are like if they had I think Jim said this, if they had basically done what you did with your game with that close, if they had made a racing like game in Elite Dangerous instead of the close combat thing, I think more people would have played that, honestly, than whatever their close combat nonsense was. So it's kind of a shame they didn't have a similar idea than what you've had.
Well, I actually would prefer if they do it as a part of their open world and not a separate thing.
Oh, that would be fun. Like you can go to stations and bet on games and maybe
Yeah,
that'd be
especially
fun.
now that they have planets, so you can race on the planet.
Oh yeah,
Pick a place and
SRV racing. Why not? Oh my God! Yeah, see, this is what happens when you start talking Elite Dangerous. Like there's so many things they could do to make it an actual game, and they're not. You just came up with two great ideas right there, and they're not doing any of it. Oh, sorry, folks. We're very disappointed around here. We dangerous. Um, but but yeah, no, I'm really happy that you made this game because there need to be more like this. I mean, there are a lot of space, like not just racing games, but games that don't involve aren't straight up combat. You know, so it is nice to have a game. Well, I guess there's some combat in the arcade mode with missiles and stuff, but that's not the point.
Yeah, the combat is not the focus of the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's to get the other players behind you, not to kill them, basically.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want any points for killing guys. So your job is not to kill as many people as you can before finishing. It's just finishing it first.
Right, and if that involves using them, I love that the game has mines. If that involves using a mine to knock out a player temporarily so you can speed past them, that's great.
Yeah, but the mines are actually a double-edged sword.
Oh, can you get caught up in a mine as well?
Yeah, sure.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Okay.
And, what's more fun? I made the AI drop the mines at checkpoints.
Oh,
especially EMP mines. So if the enemy gets an EMP mine, he will wait until he's at the checkpoint, then he will drop it so the next guy gets blown away before the turn.
Son of a gun. I didn't know that. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, because that's what the real player would do. Just not drop the mine on the straight line, because if you drop an EMP mine on the straight line, the EMP will restart before the next turn. But if you do it on a turn, then he will just move away and he will have to come back.
Now, I think my favorite thing about the game are the courses that I've encountered so far. They're just really well designed and very well crafted. Like, I think there was another reviewer who longed for randomly generated courses, which that would be nice, but
but there's a problem with random courses. Yeah, they wouldn't be designed as you said. I actually, the process of creating a track is not just place some random checkpoints and fill it with other objects around them. It was actually started with me designing the track in my head, and I put the checkpoints in. Then I would fly around them for, I don't know, an hour or two. Then add someone, place one checkpoint somewhere else, and adjust them so the flow of the track is good. Only then I would add more stuff like spectatorships and drones and other things like that. And then I would run the AI on the track to see if they don't hit anything, or if they can consider the track ready. So it's actually much more complicated than just throwing checkpoints around.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, it seems like each checkpoint is designed to either lure you into a false sense of security, oh, that one was easy, or to be like a real challenge with timing and engine usage and all that stuff. Because drifting is super required in this game, and I am not great at drifting.
But that was basically the point.
Yeah, and I like how you have the float mode, which is, other games have had that, where you keep flying in one direction, but you can point your ship in any direction. That is like super integral.
Yeah, it's very useful in the game. I specifically, because in most games it's just a toggle. You press the button and it turns on. Then you press it again to turn it off. I actually found that it's much more useful if you just make the button hold the float mode, and then it releases when you release the button.
Yeah, that is a lot more useful than, because when other games are like with the toggle, you have to remember to turn it back on, or else you'll be like flailing about all over the place. One thing I wanted to compliment you on, by the way, is the control setup for this game because not a lot of games that I have, because I have a HOTAS with 3 different devices, and not a lot of games could detect and use all 3 of those devices like for everything, and yours can. So I wanted to personally thank you for that. Because
yeah, thanks. It's actually because I spend a lot of my time on flight sims,
right.
like DCS on IL2 and stuff like that. So that's where my actually background comes from, playing games. So I wanted to emulate that thing other than just other Unity games.
You can definitely see something of a flight sim legacy in this game. Totally can. So I get that. And yeah, it's really nice to be able to like put both your arms and your legs into it. It just makes it that much more immersive.
Yeah, it's actually really great if you have rudder pedals and stuff like that to
Yeah.
fly.
Exactly. I do have rudder pedals, and it really just adds. And I use that for roll, and I always pitch up for the next gate, so it's like you're always rolling all the time. Like you're using everything, which is great, like all the time, which is what you should do.
That's what I like about simulations, actually, is that whether it's a car sim or a flight sim, is that you're not playing with keyboard and mouse or a controller. It's you're using your actually the real stuff, like a joystick and rudder pedals and throttle, these or the keyboard or the steering wheel. These are really real stuff that it gives you a better feeling than just controlling a guy with a mouse.
Right. But the nice thing about your game is if someone does want to use just a mouse and keyboard, they can. And from what I understand, it's maybe even more challenging playing that way.
Well, actually, some guys prefer to use it than even joysticks.
Yeah, that's something I don't understand. Like I know people
Yeah,
who I know people who play Free Space 2 with a mouse and keyboard, and I'm like, why? I don't. They play Elite Dangerous with a mouse and keyboard. I tried it. I couldn't do it. I could not. My brain just would not wrap around that. I needed the frickin' joystick.
Yeah, I was actually basing my mouse control on War Thunder, because the guys were testing it with the previous system that you just move the mouse and it emulated the joystick. But a lot of testers found that unintuitive, so I decided to add this cursor on the screen when you move the mouse, so that the ship is actually, you're not actually controlling the ship, you're just telling the AI where you want to point the ship.
Yeah, I think a few other flight sims use a similar model. Like I think Evercron does that for its mouse mode because it works. It's like a very simple.
Yeah, it's very good to aim because you don't have to worry about movement, or if you move the mouse too far up, then you have to put it down again. And different sims try different approaches. But I found that this cursor and the ship following the cursor is actually the best one.
Yeah, I mean it's a little freelancery, which I think is why it works. Because Freelancer, I think, still had one of the best mouse control schemes like ever. That a lot of people have tried to emulate.
And also, not many people have joysticks right now, so.
But it seems like more people are getting them.
Actually, suicide. Then.
It seems like more people are getting them though, which is great.
Yeah, because playing with joystick is fun, but for some reason people stopped using them, and now they're just realizing how good it is.
Yeah, I blame consoles for a lot of that. Yeah, I blame consoles back in the late 90s and early 2000s for kind of killing that sort of thing for a while.
Yeah, perhaps.
But
because if you have if you have a gamepad, a simple controller, you can do everything that you need a joystick for. I mean, a simple joystick, and then you can play, I don't know, a third-person shooter. Then.
Right. And what was I gonna say? Yeah. God, I've totally lost my train of thought. Sorry. You can play this with a gamepad as well. You just brought up a gamepad. You can play this with a gamepad as well if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I can't imagine trying that, but I mean, I guess it's nice if you want to.
It's doable. If you get used to it, then yeah, it's doable.
Oh, I was gonna say, I've noticed more people, like on forums I'm on and whatnot, buying joysticks for their Xbox Ones so they can play Elite with it and whatnot. So I'm noticing people getting less expensive HOTAS systems, like from Thrustmaster. They have that like $50-$60 one. That one seems popular. I think they have a slightly more expensive one that also seems very popular. So I think joysticks are slowly making a comeback, but yeah, they don't have the spread that the mouse or the gamepad does, clearly. So it is nice that you've made your game adaptable to all these systems.
Yeah, I actually had to buy a controller to just test my game.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't use controllers normally, but I decided that, in these days, any game that comes out, it has to have a controller support.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to do it, so I just bought a controller, and yeah, that's why I could implement it.
Yeah, I didn't have a controller until about 2 years ago. I never used them. And then it was European Truck Simulator 2 that finally convinced me to get a controller. Because it was terrible. It was terrible driving those things with a keyboard and a mouse. It was absolutely awful.
That I can confirm.
So I'm like, fine.
You could always just get a wheel.
I don't have the.
But you got to get like a big wheel, you know.
Yeah, I don't have the space for a wheel, like, at all.
And then you got to get like a big chain that you just hang above your head. You gotta go for the full experience.
I actually got a wireless wheel, like for the Xbox 360, and it's not that great, which is a shame because I don't have room for. They have those wheels that you like mount on the desk.
Yeah, I have that one.
Yeah, I wish I had the space for that, but I don't. Or I would have one.
What you need to do is like what Barnacules did, and you just like make a rig that like you just slide into place whenever you want to do like a racing sim or driving sim, and then you just like slide it off into a corner or something.
I actually already have a rig for my HOTAS, and it's so big. Different. I guess that's true. I guess I could probably get something that would slip between the big wooden thing for the HOTAS that might have a wheel. That's not a... God damn it.
Actually, me with my wheel, I just keep it generally in some shell or somewhere else. And if I want to play some racing game, I just put it on the desk and that's it. It takes about, 5 minutes to set it up and then I'm ready.
Hunter, I think they actually have these standalone things that just sit on the floor that you can attach a wheel to that now I'm going to look into. God darn it.
You're welcome.
Damn it.
Some of them are actually, they have their own chairs with them.
If you get all these things, though, Brian, I expect nothing less than pictures of you driving.
I wonder if I could use my existing pedals for a driving game. I probably could, huh? Probably.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh man, that'd be crazy. If I had a
if
wheel
you just
and
need two pedals, then yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I have a CH Pro pedals. They're great, but yeah, they do the slide and the push thing. So I guess they could be for a driving game. Oh no, this is not good. Oh, damn it! I wish you guys hadn't told me that, because that's a great idea.
Yeah. On the other hand, most wheels come with the pedals. At least the good ones.
Oh, it's true. That's true. And I wonder if you can just get a wheel by itself. Logitech wheels are the wheels to get, I'm told, right? Those are the good ones?
I actually have a Logitech.
Yeah.
It's pretty old. I bought a used G25, I think. And yeah, it's a bit loud when it's force feedback, but yeah, it works still.
So do you play...
And it has...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it has 3 pedals and actual shifter, so yeah, it's really good.
Do you play a lot of actual like terrestrial racing games?
When I have time, I play a bit, Dirt Rally and mostly rally games actually.
It's funny you bring that up. I tried playing Dirt Rally, and I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible at it. So I actually bought Richard Burns Rally for because it has this extensive driving school. It has an extensive rally school in it that teaches you
Yeah,
how to.
but compared to Richard Burns' Dirt Rally, it's like an arcade game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, then maybe if I get good at Richard Burns Rally, I'll be like, Dirt Rally's great.
But don't use a keyboard with it because these games actually, especially Richard Burns and Dirt Rally, they need a steering wheel with a force feedback.
Oh, maybe that's why I'm terrible with a gamepad. Because, like, they need a wheel.
I think there are some assists that will help you drive with a controller on Dirt Rally. But with Richard Burns, I wouldn't count on it.
Do you play like anti-grav racers like F-Zero or Redout at all?
No, not really. Actually, I couldn't get into them.
That's totally fair. They're a lot of fun, but yeah, it's totally fair. But I really like that. Again, your game has the arcade mode because that's kind of where I am on the realism spectrum of racing games. Like I lean more toward the dirts and the the burnouts and the Need for Speeds more than I don't know, Andrew. What's that one? Andrew Carcetto or whatever that is. That really super realistic one.
Assetto Corsa, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently that's like for the real racers. The ones that want like super realism, which I do not.
Yeah, it's I like realism because there's a lot of depth to it. With most arcade games, they're very very shallow. You can get to grips with the controls very easy, and there's very little to learn about them.
Yeah, like with your game, I think I did 2 of the simulator flight school missions, and then I tried 1 race in simulator mode, and I was god awful. I clearly hadn't done all the missions, so I wasn't fully trained, but yeah, I'm apparently not using everything I need to. Like I wasn't using the thrusters, and stuff like that, which apparently is very important.
Well, actually, not really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't need to use any other controls than you're doing with an arcade race. You just do it differently.
Okay.
So like most guys, when they try simulation, they use the acceleration too much. That's why I bound it with mouse and keyboard to the left mouse button instead of the usual W, because you're using it more like like shooting in FPS games. So it just small clicks.
So is that what you should do in the simulator mode? Like not go full on burn, but like small adjustments here and there? Oh, really? Okay, that kind of makes sense. You'd think I would know this.
Yeah, if you finish the tutorials, actually in the third lesson they teach you how to control speed. So if you just did first and second, then
I have not gotten there yet.
Understandable.
Yes, I have not gotten there yet, but I really like how detailed, by the way, those flight school missions are. If you haven't played them, they're fully voiced, fully interactive. You are in. It seems to be like a special ship that you don't actually race with, but it seems like a trainer ship, like with a side by side, and you can't see the guy next to you, but it feels like a zero.
Actually, you can.
Oh, you can? Is there a look thing?
Yeah,
there's a look thing. I forgot about the look thing.
Pre-look button, and if you push it, you're using controls to control the camera and see the guy next to you.
Darn, I didn't even think of that. Because I played a good 20, 30 minutes of that yesterday to record the video for this stream today, and I didn't even think of the free look mode. I don't think I've ever used it because I'm too focused on like what's in front of me to like look around like ooh.
Yeah.
But I really like, and also in the arcade mode, how you have not only like missiles you can fire, but you also have countermeasures. Because it's really tense to hear that missile getting closer, and you're just popping off countermeasures as the day is long to try and flake it out.
Yeah, but it would be really unfair without them.
Oh no, I agree. I really like that. So when you decided to have the arcade mode, were weapons a natural next step, or did someone suggest that to you? How did weapons come into play?
Well, actually, I really tried to make the arcade mode interesting without weapons, but I think that it wasn't as tense without them. And I was really afraid that this game would not be just flying from point A to B and for 5 minutes, but because that's boring. And so if I couldn't find anything other than weapons, I first started with boost, but boost alone was not enough. So then I just decided that it has to have weapons to make it more interesting, more tense.
Right. And it really does, because it's really funny to see someone shoot a missile at another player and to see them just go spinning out. I gotta say that's hilarious.
Yeah, because AI shoot themselves too.
Which is great. I mean, it's kill or be killed, but it's really great to see the AI not just because I'm sure you've played racing games where it feels like the AI is just gunning for you, and they're not trying to knock each other out. They're just trying to take you out. And that doesn't feel as fun,
Yeah, because some games they just design AI to be centered around the player, so you're not feeling like you're part of the competition. You feel like everything is around you, everything depends on you. But I really tried for my game to, when you're racing, you feel like even though they are AI, I wanted to make them feel like they are actually real races.
And it does.
So they will shoot each other and sometimes knock each other out of the race, and act like humans actually.
Yeah, and it really does feel like you're. I mean, it makes the races feel more satisfying, especially if you win. That you're against you're against all these viable opponents. It's not just rubber banding AI that just follows you. I mean, they really feel like serious competition when you turn the AI up, which is really nice.
But the downside is that first, if you're good, then you can fly circles around them, and they won't catch up with you if you set the difficulty low, because there is no rubber banding or stuff like that. And the other thing is that if they're not centered around you, then they're all doing their own stuff. You can end up being killed before the finish race,
which has happened. But I really do. I mean, there was a point where I got to a point where I was winning races with like a 12-second lead. So because they would get in all these scrapes and I apparently missed them, and so I'd be way ahead of everyone. So when I turned the AI up, it was a much harder challenge, because when you're using the whole HOTAS, these races can be exhausting. They really, really can be. But that's what you want, right? That's what you want. You want this. You want that thrill. You want that.
Well, I was aiming for the game to be mostly tense, because I didn't want it to be calm and relaxing experience.
I think that's why I've never looked around, because I'm like, I don't have a second to look around. I just have to keep freaking moving toward the next checkpoint.
Yeah, because that's what at least what I think, that's what you want from racing games. You're not playing racing games to be relaxed. You're racing for that adrenaline, to feel some tension, and that's what I think is good about racing games.
Yeah, and I would love it if this was successful enough to spurn more space racing games, because this is really, as we were saying earlier, just such a... It just seems so obvious when you start playing it, like, yeah, there should be more of these. It's this, like, spaceships racing in space. Why not? I mean, it seems like...
Yeah, I think it is interesting, but it's not popular enough to gain a following to gain a bigger following.
Probably because it's you got full 6 degrees of freedom, 3 dimensions. It's definitely more challenging than a terrestrial racing game.
Yeah, but again, if you fly in action mode, it's not the flying itself is actually not that difficult. I think it's just that, you know, if you want to make game successful, you need to not only make it interesting, you need to make it popular. Because, you know, if you do interesting thing about not popular topics, then it may not get the attention that you want.
Yeah, so now that you've made this one, given what you know about the genre and everything, do you see any kind of sequel or any kind of follow up to this at all?
Well, to be honest, it might be difficult actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being hard to find on Steam isn't helping. But
yeah, but that is temporary. But
right.
on the bigger scale, to make a game, you need to show. For example, if you want to make the game with a publisher, you need to show him that there's a potential that people might buy this. And if you've already done it and it wasn't a great success, then it might be more difficult than doing a new topic.
That's fair. Can you tell us at least what the topic of your next game is going to be? Can you give us like a hint?
I can say that it's not space related.
Darn! Darn!
So far, your track record's really good in that.
yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, but my track record is one game, so it's not big actually.
But it's a great game.
Will there ever be any potential like sequels to this game?
I don't know. I would like to make something else, but so far it's not promising actually.
Oh. You know, maybe something with like multiplayer.
Yeah.
I like it the way it is though. I really do. I think this is a great game.
Yeah,
I would really love to add a multiplayer, but the problem with multiplayer is that you need players actually to enjoy it. So if I would spend another month making a multiplayer and then there would be, I don't know, 2 or 3 players playing it at the same time, then it's actually not worth it.
It's a lot of wasted development time.
Yeah, that's true. It's
well, let me ask you this. About that. Okay. If you got enough response from people buying it to play the single player game, would you consider adding it later if it seemed like there was enough?
Yeah, sure.
Interesting. The campaign will begin.
I mean,
yeah, that was basically our plan. If to release the game in the current state, and then if people will pick up on it and they will start asking about multiplayer. And if we can see that there's enough people willing to play it on multiplayer, then yeah, sure, we can make a multiplayer module and upgrade the game with multiplayer.
Oh, one option might be that as your Steam friends will go through their own races, they can maybe save a replay, send it to you, and then you try to compete with their time.
Like a
not
ghost?
necessarily leaderboard. Yeah, but
like
it would
ghost?
be like a ghost mode.
Yeah,
that's actually
something
easier to do than straight up multiplayer. But yeah, I still think if I am going to do it, it will be in my free times. So it might take some time to do it.
I could see.
But yeah, that's a cool idea.
I could see this game having some serious legs if like you came back in a few months with maybe another track or 2 if you had time. You know, I mean, games that have updates over a lengthy period of time really get really get a lot of good not customer support, love, a lot of positivity. I can't even think of the word I'm trying to think of, but just having a
but I get your point that if I can make some updates on then people might see that they might get interesting.
Yeah, because what I've noticed is, at least for me, if I see a game has gotten an update, even if it's a small patch or a new feature, I see that it's been updated in my Steam download list. I'm like, ooh, what's that? And then if it's something really exciting, I'll tell people about it. So that's a really good way to keep the momentum, the excitement going. Just
yeah,
FYI.
that's actually an interesting idea. I am thinking about something, but I can't promise anything right now.
Of course. I'm just throwing out suggestions.
Yeah, I would love to add some new tracks. I actually have a few ideas for new tracks.
Oh, goody. Because I love the tracks I've already seen in this game, and I just think this game deserves more love and more eyes on it that it's getting. So hopefully this will help. But we do have to start wrapping up because I have a hard stop in 5 minutes because I'm on my lunch break. But Paul, I want to thank you so much for coming on to talk about your game.
Welcome.
Again, folks, it is Orbital Racer. Right now, it's kind of hard to find on Steam as we record this. You got to actually search for it on Google because there's a publishing issue on Steam, but hopefully that'll be rectified soon. It is it $14.99 or $19.99? I think it's $14.99.
14.
Yeah, that's an amazing price for what you get here. You get a bunch of tracks, you get multiple gameplay modes, full-on flight school for the simulator mode. It is really
You get 2 different games, actually.
Yeah, you basically get 2 games. You get an arcade space racing game and a full-on Newtonian physics flight simulator racing game, and they are quite different in how they play. So you basically are getting 2 games for one, and that's an amazing value. And it doesn't have multiplayer, but the AI is wicked, just absolutely wicked in trying to knock you out of the running. So just a couple of programming notes real quick before we wrap up. This Thursday on the LAN party, we're going to be trying this top-down multiplayer arena-y thing called Star Blast. The developer was nice enough to send us some keys, so we're going to be nice enough to play it for them. And next week on the show, we are going to be talking to the developer of the bridge simulator Starship Horizons. We just lined up that guest yesterday because I've been lazy and getting guests over the holidays. So that'll be great. So we have some fun stuff coming up. So again, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us after apparently such a very long day of
thank you.
7 hours of driving and a move. You're in the middle of a move. That's crazy. But I hope that works out well for you. And I really hope that more people...
It was nice being here.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And we really hope, folks, that you check out this game. There is a demo, right? If I'm remembering correctly, there is a demo that you can try out. If I remember, right? Is there...
Actually, the demo was... that was a press demo.
Oh, that was a press demo. Oh, poop. Maybe that's what you should do. Make like a one-track demo for folks to try out. Maybe that... Because people do like demos. Maybe make a demo.
That might be a good idea, actually.
But at $15, though, this game is a steal, folks, for how much fun it is and everything. So please check it out. It's called Orbital Racer. It is on Steam for $15, and it is awesome. It is absolutely one of my favorite games of 2017, and I was totally blown away by how great it is. So, folks, thank you so much for watching. Paul, thank you for joining us. Hunter and Spaz, thanks for hanging out. And we'll see you all next time, folks. Have a good one. Bye-bye.